Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Search Off the Record, a podcast coming to you from the Google Search team. My name's Lizzie, and today I'm joined by John. Hi, John.
Hi.
And we have Rio today. Hi, Rio.
Hi, Lizzie. Hi, John.
It's so good to see you. I think the last time we saw each other was at Brighton SEO maybe 2 years ago. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. It's been 2 years, yeah.
It was in this in-person meeting that we had this idea that maybe we should have a podcast recording to talk about UX and SEO, sort of a spontaneous, it's one of those like magical hallway conversations that they say that you have when you're in person at events. And it happened to us. When we first met,
yes.
I know, you told me that you are, I think was it your first SEO conference as well? Or it was maybe the first few? It was mine as well.
It was my very first time, yes.
And you told me that you're coming from actually a UX background and not necessarily SEO. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came into SEO world?
Sure. So, yeah, it was 2020 when I first joined this industry as soon as I graduated from the college. And the first couple of years, I had been consulting our clients' landing pages and websites using our heat map solution. So we're a digital marketing agency based in Tokyo, Japan. But at the same time, we develop our own SEO platform and also heat map tool, which is useful for optimizing web pages. And yeah, so I had been consulting our clients' web pages using heat map tool. And I think in total, I analyzed and consulted around a couple hundred pages. And since about 2 years ago, I've been managing our own websites in both SEO and CRO aspects, and also doing product management as well.
You mentioned CRO. What is CRO?
CRO stands for Conversion Rate Optimization. SEO is search engine optimization, but CRO, which was more optimizing the conversion rate of the web pages.
Oh, that sounds a lot like usability.
Yes, UX and CRO, they get along.
Is CRO, is this the main metric for UX? In terms of like, is this the thing that you're sort of optimizing for when you're improving the usability of your website?
Yeah, I think that's one of the metrics that you use because, when you like own your websites or when you manage your websites, most of the time the main goal is to get higher conversion rates from your websites, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get higher conversion rate, of course, you need to provide a good user experience on your platform.
Okay. And practically, what would that mean? Like people can find the button. So if you cannot find the button, there's nothing to convert you to do this action. Or if the button is like at the bottom of the page, how can you possibly convert?
Yeah, that's one of the things I think. Like placing the buttons at the right places of the pages.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a very, very important tactics of CRO. And that's also a good aspect of UX as well, I think. So when the user come to your page, they're looking for a certain information. And if they're engaging well with your content, if they're satisfied with the information that you're providing on your websites, most of the time, or maybe sometimes, they're likely to convert. Like they're likely to click the buttons that you're promoting.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you have your own products promoting on your website, and say, free delivery or something. I cannot really come up with, but like any kind of promotions, right? And when users are really like highly engaging with your content, they're satisfied, then they're likely to click the button so that they'll look further
Mm-hmm.
about your products or anything that you're promoting there.
Does UX and SEO also share a common goal, or is SEO kind of separated out?
I think pretty much UX plays a very, very significant role in SEO. So this is what I always say, but what do you do SEO for? Like what's the main thing that people are spending so much time and money and effort on SEO for? Like, of course, getting your page ranking higher, that's the main thing that people pursue on SEO. But the goal behind this is to gain more users, gain more sessions on your web pages, and to ultimately convert them to your customers or your users, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, you do SEO to get more sessions, more users come into your pages. But after that, what you have to do is to modify your pages, satisfy your users with the contents that they're looking for, so that they can, one day ultimately become your user, become your customer.
So when you're thinking about like the user experience or a journey end to end, does the journey start when they're on your website and then making a purchase, or would it start from before? For example, like when they're on the search results page?
I would say UX, which stands for user experience, is a pretty broad term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any kinds of experience that users experience is defined as user experience, UX. So what your users experience before or after they come to your website is also your website or even your business's UX.
So it's almost like how they're experiencing your business as a whole. It's not necessarily, because I think like when I think about UX, I'm thinking about maybe UI or something that's like more visual.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're starting on the search results page, then the first thing that they're seeing is maybe text.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just a blue link, they're seeing like the title of your page, the description, and that is maybe more like writing side of things and not necessarily the visual layout of your web page.
Yes.
But maybe that's the writer hat I'm wearing, like tech writer hat. I'm thinking about UX writing. That's my own bias, I think.
Well, yeah, any kind of text, images,
Mm-hmm.
any kind of contents that your users are looking at. So any kind of the content that you're promoting, or it can be on your website or it can be your actual product. Any kind of feelings or emotions that they get from using that product or service can be said as a UX.
So it's sort of like the whole end to end.
Yes, exactly.
Any interaction. It's almost like any time that they're like touching your site before they see it even is maybe all connected.
It is, yes.
What did you do with our documentation, Lizzie, in terms of UX? Or did you do anything specific? Or
Well, I mean, I think this is sort of like how do we scope UX? Like if we're saying that everything is UX, then maybe everything that I do is a very philosophical conversation we're now having. But I think if we're talking about converting people, like our landing page has that big blue button. So we're trying to get people to do a certain action. And like the primary action that we want people to do is to read the SEO starter guide on our landing page. So we think that that's like the majority of people should go over there. So that's what we put as our first sort of above the fold thing. And then we have secondary things that we think that people might want to find. So we have case studies, help resources, Search Console, and we sort of ordered them by how important and common that action would be. So if everybody should be going to this first thing, like that's the first thing that we want to point people to. But what Rio was saying earlier about converting people, I don't know how I would think about this or apply this sort of thinking to like a documentation page that doesn't have a clear button that you're like trying to get people to like add to cart. Like they're not buying anything on Onesie. So what am I trying to convert people to in, for example, like the favicon documentation or structured data where there's some action that I want you to do, but I don't know if you did it or not. That's something that maybe I want Rio's opinion on, is how would I go about measuring that they completed the thing. Like I'm trying to get them to do it, but I don't know if they did it because there's no button to say like, yes, like I added markup to my website after reading your documentation. It was me converting to the next step, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping like that's what, the documentation should get you to do, but there's not like a clear thing for some of our stuff that we can see that that's what led you to do that action, if that makes sense. It's not as clear as like an e-commerce site.
I think you also have a quiz on the bottom of one of the pages, right? Or
Yes.
a couple?
Yes. In our
That feels like a conversion thing or like a test. Like, did you read to the bottom?
Well, we can look at like the how far did you scroll. So I think that is tracked in Google Analytics. So we can see that you got to 80%. But that's another thing that I don't know if that is what I should be optimizing for, because what if what you wanted to find was in the middle of the page and like you had success? Like you found the thing that you wanted to, you sent the link to somebody else, because we have people who are reading the documentation with different goals in mind. It might be that you wanted to send it to a colleague and then you completed your action. That's like what you came to the documentation for. You didn't necessarily need to sit and read top to bottom in the crawl budget documentation and complete the quiz, and you spent 15 minutes reading the thing. Maybe I don't want you to spend 15 minutes reading the thing. Maybe longer time reading the page is not necessarily good for all of our pages. So that's one thing that I struggle with the metrics side of things, because it's not like there is, okay, 2 minutes reading for all pages is, yes, that's the baseline for at least onesie. Our developers.google.com/search documentation, because there's many different goals and lengths of documentation.
I actually never deeply thought about the conversion points of those kind of documentations, but the main purpose of those documentations is to get people learn about the contents that written on the documentation, right?
Mhm.
And especially like Google's documentations, those kind of stuff helps a lot of people when they want to start, SEO, when they want to learn about SEO, when they want to learn deeply about SEO, and even the experts, they still, look into those kind of Google documentation. So I think the one thing that you can set as a conversion point is, I don't know if you guys already have it, but the share button or the copy,
interesting.
like link copy button,
Mhm.
that might be a good point that indicates that users are actually engaging with the contents, right?
Mhm.
If they're satisfied, or if they think that stuff that's written on the documentation is helpful, then of course they want to share it to somebody, or if they want to share it with SEO newbies that you have in your team or company, right?
Mhm.
So I think that can be a good point as a conversion point for documentation.
I think that's like a good thing to look at. I'm curious what you also think about the helpfulness satisfaction rating. So we have like thumbs up, thumbs down. Would that also be something that to look at? In my mind, it's not like a conversion stat, but it would be helpful to measure sort of like, is the usability good or bad?
Yeah, you can just know if the users are satisfied or, engaging with the contents. Yeah.
I guess also it kind of shows that people read as much as they wanted, and now they have an opinion, which is kind of the goal, right? Even if they say I wasn't happy with this page, then it's like it gave them the information that they needed to make that call.
Yeah.
Even that is like sometimes difficult, because you need to sort of do analysis, or like, I don't consider what this means in the context of the page that you're on, because you could apply metrics to mean different things based off of other information. So for example, the removals documentation has really negative ratings, and the comments that we get about it is that they're frustrated with the actual process. So to remove a page or an image or like some personal information, they're frustrated with how it works, which is not necessarily the documentation page. And this is sort of a common problem with documentation and like the way that the product works. Like, are they upset with the report or the function itself, or the way that we wrote about it is like, that was the best that the tech writer could do in that situation, based off of like, that's just how the thing works, and we need to fix like the root problem to make it better. But maybe that's like an example of just like how you can look at the unhelpfulness rating, and then sort of figure out, you need to do like some sleuth work to figure out like, why are they so unhappy, and what thing do you need to fix to make it go up, and is it the way that it's written? Is it the way that the page is laid out? Is it the process itself? Like, can they not find the thing, like the button to then go remove that URL? Maybe we need to make the button bigger so that they can then go to the next thing, and then that can be like a conversion rate thing that we can look at.
I mean, it also sounds like our docs are a weird edge case that a lot of people don't have with regards to content on the web. I imagine most people who are commercially active want people to buy stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good like discussion point. What are the other sites that you looked at that were not e-commerce when you were analyzing like heat map stuff? Was it all sort of like shopping minded, or was there other type of content? like news or like articles, these kinds of things?
Most of them are advertisement landing pages. So it's pretty much like a page that leads to e-commerce site or service site. Yeah, and other pages, service sites, and also like articles, SEO articles as well. So not always e-commerce site. So e-commerce site is really simple. Like the conversion point is very, very simple. Either they purchased a thing or not, right? It's really simple.
Mm-hmm.
But also like landing pages, if you're navigating the users to your actual service pages, product pages, then the number of the clicks of the button that navigates to the actual pages can also be a conversion point. And for the SEO articles, most of the time, they're also promoting something on their pages. Like they promote something, their own products, or it can be somebody else's products on your web pages, right? So if they hit the purchase button or if they hit the like inquiry buttons, ask for demo or something like that, that can also be a conversion point. Like there are so many different kinds of conversion point.
I think for the Search Console Help Center documentation, it would be that open the report. So the pages that are about like the URL inspection tool, then the conversion event is probably that main, like open that tool and then go use it, perhaps. But maybe it would be like secondary things too.
Yeah, that could be one.
Have you seen any cases where UX has a conflict with SEO? Where it's like you do things for UX, but they're bad for SEO?
I think there are a couple things that people do for SEO, but it's not good for UX. For example, maybe there are only like few people nowadays, I believe, but still, I see sometimes like people stuff a lot of keywords in their contents so that they think those contents can get ranked higher. But that's terrible for UX. So I have this one experience with my customer. They were stuffing a lot of keywords because they were expecting that could help the content rank higher. But that was actually causing a lot of like clusters on the pages. So it was really, really hard to read. The visualization of that content was really bad. It was terrible. And so I recommended them to remove all the unnecessary keywords on that page, which doesn't make sense for the context. And that actually helped improving the conversion rate.
And then did you see also some positive impact in like the SEO side of things? Like did their ranking improve?
So they're already ranking pretty high. So it doesn't like added any positive side for SEO, but that didn't affect SEO. So the clients were believing that stuffing keyword is good for SEO. So they were like, are you sure it's okay to remove all those keywords because I don't want to, affect our content.
Ranking.
Yeah. But that didn't happen.
Okay. So they had no negative impact from their ranking side of things. They got rid of the keyword stuffing. They thought if we get rid of these words, then our ranking will fall.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen to them?
No.
That's great. Cool.
So good for both SEO and UX, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Maybe we shouldn't take it to an extreme and remove all words, though. Just keep the button.
Is there like a certain balance for, I guess like maybe that's another UX thing where you want something to be more streamlined and not so cluttery. Like if you have a really text-heavy landing page where it's like paragraph, and it's hard to see the button, that is maybe not so good for UX.
It depends on what kind of contents, I would say. So if the purpose of that content is to provide a lot of information, then maybe it's hard to place a lot of buttons between the paragraph, right? But maybe you can like add some like images, videos, or any kind of visualization so that user can interact with those content without getting bored. So placing a lot of buttons is not the only answer for improving the UX, but adding the visual assets like images and stuff like that, that can also help the user to engage more with the content, and they can, satisfy with the content. They can keep reading, they will keep scrolling down, and then eventually they'll find the button and they convert. That's also a case.
Okay, so it sounds like adding GIFs to a page is good for UX.
I actually don't know about that. I don't think there's any like bad influence or, anything from UX aspect.
So I don't know if this is like maybe I need to look up like where did I read this? Is it a personal opinion or did I read this in like a best practice somewhere? But I read that GIFs are not something that we should be doing too much within documentation because they're distracting and you can't pause them. So from like an accessibility point of view, like they're like flashing and like constant movement. So if you're trying to read focused documentation, it might be like something that's distracting that sort of like calm reading vibe that you want to be having. And so like a pause play video loop would be better, but that's not necessarily like UX or SEO maybe.
Well, that actually makes sense. But me personally, never faced any trouble putting GIF images between the paragraphs in the article. But when the image quality is pretty bad, then that leads to bad UX. So and it's hard to maintain the good quality when you put GIFs, right? Like GIFs, sometimes it can like really blurry and the quality might be bad. So in that case, that's terrible UX, I would say. But the GIF itself, I don't know. I don't think GIF itself has a bad effect on UX or something.
Would it have a positive effect? Or could you measure whether or not it has a positive or negative effect on user experience by adding or like an A/B test for whether you have like a GIF or a video?
Yeah. Well, you definitely should do A/B tests in any cases. But actually, we once replaced it's not video, but it's an image to a GIF, and it generated a higher conversion rate.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. So we have remove all the keywords and add more GIFs. Okay, maybe I shouldn't look at it this extreme.
But it really depends, though. I feel like that's part of the user experience is like looking at, does it make sense to add that GIF for this user in this context? Because maybe it is weird to have a GIF on your landing page, or maybe it's really helpful. Maybe that's very important to show like how to use a product, for example. And then that helps them convert because they saw, oh, that's what that product does. I put this thing here, and that's how that thing works.
That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know, Rio, have you seen that people do things differently in Japan for UX, or is UX mostly global?
I don't know if there is any particular thing that people in Japan do for UX, but there is one unique thing about the user behavior or UX trend in Japan, I would say. So it's not like people intentionally do, but people actually prefer to have visual assets like videos or so many images on their content. So I once did the research. There was 2 articles, one without any visual contents and one with few visual contents between like each paragraph.
Mhm.
And the content with few images that has higher user engagement rate. And in Japan, we see a lot of content that has a lot of images, visual assets. But when I search something in English, when I read like English documents, I rarely see pages with a lot of like visual assets. So maybe that's one thing that is different from how people react in Japan and in other countries.
You see anything different about like site navigation or the way that people are like going from page to page in Japan compared to maybe English content?
I don't think there is a difference in that aspect, only the visual contents.
More image heavy or like more illustration?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
What kind of common mistakes do you see people making when it comes to UX? Are there such things, or do people just do things differently?
Well, stuffing keywords is definitely one of them. I've seen few people still doing that, so that's definitely one of them. Oh, and also I've seen a lot of cases where they put carousel, and that actually have a lower impact on UX, I would say. So users have to like keep clicking the buttons to show the different images, right?
Mm-hmm.
To display the other images. And in the study that I read, users actually don't really click that much. So if you have a lot of information that you want to provide to users, that doesn't really do good
So a better thing would be to do some other like flow, like lazy loading, or like something that your user doesn't need to like click so many times. Or what would you recommend for a website that has this carousel? What would be better for UX?
It's better to just input the image in the content.
Okay. So just like 6 images, like this.
Yeah, or if there's too much, then I think you should reduce it, because that means you are providing too much information that can cause the users to, get confused.
Or to go away if like all they're seeing is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
image, 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 image.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think that we have like any carousel. I'm now like, do we have any carousels in Onesie? Now I need to eradicate them.
We have carousel structured data, right?
Yes. For carousel in search results. So the carousel feature within, that is like a UX pattern that we have for some of the rich results. Interesting.
Huh.
What is your take on the zippies, like the expando kind of thing, like collapsing content, Rio, from like a UX perspective? Is this nice? Is it not very nice?
I don't think that's necessarily bad. Sometimes, when you're using that for a specific reason. So let's say you have FAQ pages where there's so many like questions and answers, then you cannot like show the whole content without, clipping it. So in that case, it's better to do that so that it's easier for them to look for the questions or information that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing that too much, sometimes it's hard for the users to notice that, that's clickable. So if you're providing the very, very important information that you definitely want your users to notice, then it's better not to do that. It's not about like UX aspect. It's more like your information delivery thing.
Yeah. I see people doing that as like a way to sort of like make the page look more scannable, or like it's a more minimal, like not overwhelming with all of this content. So they sort of like zip up, zip up, zip up, and then you need to drill in to see more.
Yeah.
But then what if you miss it, for example, or you can't do like command find? Let's see, it's a really long page and you can't find that piece of thing that you're looking for because it's hidden behind a zippy. But I guess, John, would that be like no implication from a SEO perspective, or how do you see that from like another angle?
I think from an SEO perspective, that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
because the primary information that people will be searching for is probably visible immediately anyway. So it's almost like, well, if the answer is somewhere drilled down, it's like you don't know the answer when you're searching, otherwise you wouldn't be searching. So it's kind of like you find the question and you can expand that. That seems okay.
I guess it's also trying to show you like visual hierarchy, like importance of that content. So if it's behind a zippy, then you're kind of signaling to the user as well that this thing that's hidden is not as important. Otherwise, we would have shown it to you like either bigger or like in a larger font or something.
Cool. Okay. So kind of wrapping up, is there one thing that you think SEOs should do to get started in UX or conversion rate optimization? It's like, where would you tell them to start?
This is one thing that I wanted to talk about, but heat map tool, it's not like I'm trying to promote our product or anything, but heat map tool actually helps a lot. Every time we do UX improvement, conversion rate improvement, CRO, we always need heat map tool. So heat map tool is basically visualizing the user's behavior on the pages. So it shows which part of the content users are reading at and which buttons that users are clicking, or if the users are leaving the page at which part of the content. So it visualizes the whole user behavior. So you can actually learn if the users are engaging with the content or not, or if they're satisfied with the information that you're providing or not. So let's say you're writing something that you really want your users to notice, or you want users to understand, or to, promote something. And what if the part that you're trying to promote so hard is not actually, the users are not actually reading that point? Then, there's no way that you can convert them, or it's just waste of time and effort doing that, right? So it's really, really important to know what your users are engaging and interacting with on your content. And heat map tool visualizes that.
Okay. So you can see like more quickly where on the page, like there's some sort of like visual element to not just seeing like, I mean, I think I can look up in Google Analytics, like where people, like they're going 80% of the page, but then I have to think in my head, where is 80% of my page and like, where are they? And you're saying the heat map thing would show me exactly where that would be on the page. And I don't necessarily need to make up my mind where is 80%.
Yeah, it's really easy to analyze it. So like you said, when you use Google Analytics, you have to like do the settings to know if the users are reading 80% of the content or not. You don't need any of those kind of, settings. You can just like implement it just by inserting the one JavaScript tag, and then you can get the data of your users' behavior on your web pages, and then you can learn, oh, they're reading this or they're not reading this. Oh, maybe we should fix this. Maybe we should place this information higher so that, more users can learn about that.
That sounds really cool. We should look into that, try it out.
I now want to analyze the SEO starter guide, put it into a heat map tool and see if they are reading 100% of my gigantic document.
Cool. Okay. Well, this has been really insightful. Rio, thank you for joining us. That's it for this episode. And again, thank you for joining us, Rio. If folks have any questions or comments, where can they find you?
I'm always on X, formerly Twitter. I'm used to saying Twitter, so I'm just going to say Twitter. But yeah, you can find me. You can just search Rio Ichikawa. It's pretty hard to pronounce, but yeah, Rio Ichikawa. And yeah, I'm always on Twitter, so you guys can find me there.
Cool. Okay, we'll definitely add a link. Thank you, folks, for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
We've been having fun with these podcast episodes. I hope you, the listener, have found them both entertaining and insightful too. Feel free to drop us a note on LinkedIn or chat with us at one of the next events that we go to if you have any thoughts. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.